Bruno Falissard, you're a professor of biostatistics at the University of Paris-Saclay. You're here at ESCAP, at the ESCAP Congress in Maastricht for us. You presented a questioning talk on the concept of neurodevelopmental disorders. Why do you question this concept?
First, because I have been surprised by the emergence of this concept. I am a psychiatrist. The neurodevelopmental disorders are supposed to be psychiatric disorders, but we call them neurological developmental disorder. So, are we psychiatrists or are we neurologists? Of course, I understand that neuro is in fashion and there is neurophilosophy, neurosociology, etc. And it was very likely to be some kind of marketing trick to put neuro in this disorder, but this has had a very strong impact in the society because for many people psychiatry is something which is not very clear, especially with children and adolescents, and suddenly saying that it is neurological developmental, they say, okay, these diseases are neurological, and when they are not clearly neurological, they are not really disease, and the children have to go to see social workers, etc. And this has led to very important problem in my country, France, where some outpatient clinics were supposed to be closed in order to deal only with neurodevelopmental disorder. And because of that, I said, okay, we have to come back to basics and to define what are disorders in psychiatry and in which way they can be considered sometimes as neurological, but most of the time they are not, they are different, and they have to be conceived like that and recognized like that.
But then how should psychiatry and child psychiatry incorporate the biological and neurodevelopmental dimension of psychiatric disorders? Should that then each time become exclusive of psychiatric disorders?
I think the key word is triangulation. You know, we human beings, we have an interiority and we have a physicality. We have a body and we have a mind, and that's life. And in psychiatry, of course, our patients have a brain, and we have to deal with this brain. Sometimes they have also epilepsy, and we give medication, and this interacts with the brain. No problem with that. But our patients have also a mind, and this is the core of the specialty of psychiatry, and we have to deal with this mind, and this is a different job, and we have not to forget it.
But is it not the... Why do you say it's a different job? Could it not be a converging job?
I don't think so. When you have an adolescent that did a suicide attempt, when you have an interview with this adolescent, you are speaking about death, life, existence, what is the aim of an existence, and at the moment, neurons, synapse, prefrontal cortex has nothing to say about what is the aim of an existence.
Okay, and when you have a person with mental retardation and a depression?
I have at that moment to realize that this patient can have problem in his or her life as a human being that exists, but also there is a brain, and I have to take into consideration this brain. And in a way, I have to split my activity, and I have to do it because at the moment there is no science that can integrate both points of view. Perhaps one day this new science will appear, and I will be glad with that, but at the moment this is not the case.
Another question is regarding maybe, well, or it's a comment. Don't you think that part of the attraction for the idea of neurodevelopmental disorder is that because it's really coming from something that is intrinsically bound to the development of the person, it protects them into their right and their access to care? Even psychiatric care.
I agree, but here we come to the question because the society and the healthcare system accept concepts that are in fashion or that correspond to a certain way to see how people function, then we psychiatrists, we should stick to this way of thinking. This is a pragmatic point of view. I understand it. On the other way, I am afraid that if we psychiatrists, we forget that our patients really have interrogation, suffering with their interiority, and in our Occidental society, interiority is a taboo. And if we forget that in the healthcare system, if we don't give to physicians enough time to do the interview, if all the time goes for the brain imaging, etc., and not for the clinical interview, then I think it will be really bad for our patient. And so this is our duty to deal against that.
Okay, so a future to be defined in an identity of child psychiatrist that maybe will integrate all the complexity of the human dimensions.
This is the job.
Thank you for your time, Bruno, and thank you for participating in ESCAP.
My pleasure.